Okay, let's talk about editing drone photos. So you will be editing your own drone photos, while the team in Vietnam will be editing all the rest of them. So what I'm going to do is put in my mini SD card that I shot my drone photos for the day on my Mavic. And before I go into importing them, let me just go up here to File, New Catalog, and let's just call this, I'm saving this in my on my SSD, my external hard drive. We'll call this test drone, and I will create that. Close this for a second, opens back up, and I will have a brand new session with no other photos in there. Okay. All right. Any day now. There we go. So now that I've inserted my mini or micro SSD, if I go up here to library, and then I go down here to the bottom left and hit import, this is the window that opens up. Over here on the left, this is my SD card from my drone. And again, those files are always buried down a couple of menus in DCIM, and then here, there they are. So these are video files. I'm going to select all of those and uncheck them. These are the drone photos from my day. And I want to make sure they're being saved to the right place. Over here on the right side, here's Drew's SSD. Again, that's my external hard drive. If I swing this down, you can see it automatically is going to save them here in this folder, which is 4/30/2021. So I'm going to hit import, and they will start coming in. It's asking me if I want to tag them by the GPS coordinates I'm currently sitting at, and I don't. I'm just going to say disable, and it should eject the card once they're done. It probably already did. And then what I'm going to do is hold shift, select all of them, and you should have installed a preset from me called Drone 2021. I'm going to hit that, and we can see they already start to get all that color and contrast in them. This preset works pretty well for everything, but you still need to go through and check all of them individually and make sure that you're tweaking it so it looks good. All right, so I clicked on my first image. I'm going to go up to the Develop tab. And over here on this side, what I'm going to do is pretty much just use the exposure slider to make sure that what I'm going to do is I'm going to find where my white areas are getting overexposed or clipped, and you can actually see that up here. They're starting to get clipped. I don't want to go that far with them, but I want the image nice and bright. So I find the limit, and then I back it off just a little bit, about like that. I don't want it underexposed, right? You don't want it looking gloomy. Go as bright as it'll go, and then back it off just a bit. And then I just hit the arrow key on the keyboard to go to the next one. That actually looks pretty good. Again, I'm looking for the white areas and making sure they're not clipped all the way up, and then back it off just a bit, with the goal of keeping these all nice and bright and vibrant. Sometimes these shots looking straight down can be a little underexposed. That looks good. And I just go through. It's pretty quick. I'm already at the next shoot. And this one, this looks a little bit dark to me, so I'm going to use that exposure slider and just push it up. And I still have all of the highlights in my shot retained, and that's a much better looking shot. Probably will need to do the same thing. Sometimes, depending on the time of day, one side of the house will be underexposed because of how the sun was hitting the camera, and the other side of the house will be good. So that looks good. See, this is what I'm talking about, because the sun is now reflecting off of all of these surfaces here, and this is actually properly exposed. Looks good to me. Okay, now let's quickly show you how to draw property lines when you are needing to draw around a certain property. Sometimes they will request that property lines are drawn if we're shooting just land, for example, almost always you will do a shot with property lines drawn around it. Before I do that, let me just go over the basics of what drone angles we're going to get. We're going to get a front shot that's about roof height or just under, like this one here. You can see it's such a wide angle, I actually got another one of those. But the shots that we will always get are the roof height shot from the front. If you can get one from the back, go for it, but sometimes the trees or the backdoor neighbors or whatever, you might not be able to get as low. And then you're going to get all four corners from up high. In this case, it was such a skinny piece of property, I got 3, but you would get all the corners to show the surrounding area. And notice that on these high shots, what I'm doing is the bottom of the property is at the bottom of the frame. I'm getting the whole property in the frame, and I'm also getting some horizon. I keep the top like 10 to 20% of the photo for these 4 corner shots, the sky. So get the whole property, and the top 10 to 20% of it should be the sky. And you'll see that across all of these, that's pretty consistent. The whole property is there, and a bit of sky at the top. If I go back, you can see that's the case here as well. Then always get this eagle eye shot, which is obvious. You just fly to the top and shoot straight down, trying to get the whole property in. And you should be able to. You're only supposed to fly up to 400 feet legally. And so if you have a massive property that's like 20-something acres or beyond, you might not be able to get all of it by looking straight down. But on the average size property up to like 5 acres, that's not a problem. And again, this is kind of a variation on that roof height shot. But the other thing we're going to do is if there's a feature around the property, if there's other outbuildings, if there's a shop, something like that, we're going to fly and we're going to take a picture of that too. So minimum, you should be taking 6 drone photos every time out, which is going to be roof height shot from the front, roof height shot from the back, eagle eye shot, that's 3, and then the 4 corners with the whole property in view. And by the way, your roof line shot might not include the entire property, but those shots from the top and those shots around the 4 corners need to always have the full property in the frame. So you have the 4 shots, so basically 7 shots every time minimum, and then you're free to fly around and grab any other shots you see, but don't be shooting like 20 drone photos. We don't want to create some kind of expectation that we're going to shoot that much for every property. So try to keep it between 6 to 8 photos if you can. If it's a massive property, shoot any other features that there might be. Maybe RV parking, a shop, a view, etc., etc. Okay, so back to my other point. If I want to do the property outline now, I'm going to pick the best angle to do that, which is probably going to be something like, none of these are great for it, but I wouldn't normally do a property outline on a house like this because it's obvious by the fence what the property outline is. But let's just do this one. So what I'm going to do is on a Mac, I'm going to hold Control and I'm going to click, and then I'm going to go up here to Edit in Photoshop, and it's automatically going to open Photoshop for me and import this image. And when I do these property outlines, I don't actually draw lines. I do what I call a color pop. I think it's the signature style that I want to stick with for the company. I think it looks good. So I'll teach you how to do that right now. So we come over here. I'm going to hold Command and press J twice, and that's going to make 2 copies over here. Think of these as stacks of paper, these layers, layered on top of each other. This is the bottom layer and so on and so forth. This is the top layer. Now they're all duplicates of each other, so if I hide them, it doesn't look like anything's changing, But like, let's say that I take this one here and I just turn it black and white, which I actually will. If I go to the hue saturation tab, let me hide this real quick. I can't. Just lower the saturation all the way, lower the lightness a bit. What you'll see when I hide the layer above it, that's what that looks like. So that is what I'm going to do, is on that second layer, I'm going to turn it black and white and lower the opacity, not the opacity, sorry, but the brightness. Then on this guy here, I'm going to select the layer and I'm going to hit P for the pen tool. And I'm going to find the edges of the property. I'm going to click here and I'm going to go to the edge right here. If I follow the fence line, looks like that is part of their property to the sidewalk. Click there. And then their property goes, well, it looks like it bends around the corner here. So I'm actually going to click here and then I'm going to click here. And I can actually, if I keep holding the mouse, if I pull back, I can actually bend it a little bit like this with these, what are called splines, right? So I'll bend it around that corner a bit. Now, I got that mark on that corner of the property. I'm going to go down here and click here. See how, because I bent this one, now this one is kind of rounded. I'm going to hold Control and grab this spline and just bring it back closer to that node. And I can still swing it to bend this here. But now this line has been straightened out. And if I pull it out, it's bending, right? I'm holding Command while I do this to keep this line straight. And I have the property lines all set. And then I'm going to close it off. When I'm on the final one, you can see a little circle appears. And now that's set. So what I'm going to do now is hold Control, and I'm going to click right. See that how when I hold Control, it changes the cursor to have a little menu. And I'm going to click. It's going to bring up the menu. And I'm going to go Make Selection. It's going to prompt me for how much I want to feather, which is just the softness as opposed to a completely hard edge. And I like 5 pixels. I'm going to hit OK. So now I have this area selected. Now, the problem is if I hit the delete key, it's going to show a window through to the layer below it. And now I've done the opposite of what I want to do. I'm not showing the property. I've actually blocked out the property. I'm going to hold Command and press Z to bring that back. I need to delete everything but what's inside of my selected area. So I go up here to select, and then I press inverse. Now you see there's a outline around the whole image. That's because it's selecting everything outside of the area that I drew. Now when I press the delete key on the keyboard, it's going to delete everything outside of that. And I click on the move tool here. What I'm going to do now is hold Command and press D. I'm just deselecting it. And this is a piece of the photo above it. Look, I can click and drag it around so you can kind of understand what's happening. Command Z, put it back. I might go, this doesn't look great. I probably should have drawn a little bit to grab that as well. But I'm going to go back to this layer here. Image, adjustments, hue saturation. I'm going to lower the lightness even more. I want to still see the detail, but I want our property to really stand out. And I might select this, go up to image, adjustments, brightness, contrast, and just increase the brightness even more without clipping my highlights, right? That's what I'm looking for. Hit OK. So this is it. This is how you draw the property outline. If it is kind of a complicated property outline, the real estate agent should have sent along a plat map. A plat map is something from the city that actually shows the legal property lines, and you can look at that and use your best judgment on how to translate that into Photoshop. You have to use a little creativity sometimes, but you can also go back and forth with the real estate agent to make sure. But using that plat map, or better yet, while you're on site, talking to the homeowner or the agent and getting them to really show you exactly where all the property lines are, you keep that fresh in your mind, and then as you come here at the end of the day after you've put all of your photos into Photoshop and Lightroom, you're actually able to still remember, okay, that post was the corner of the property and that tree was the other corner, etc. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Command S, and when I do that, it's going to automatically put it back into Lightroom for me. And I actually keep the original copy, which is right next to it here, as well. So they'll have the property outline version, and they will have the full color version as well. And since I know that I'm only going to export this particular shoot, what I'm going to do is find the first photo, which is right here. I'm going to hold Shift, select all these drone photos that I'm going to export, go up here to File, Export, and I'm going to go to this first one, Export Location. I'm going to choose, yes, this is where I did save it originally, but I'm going to create a new folder. Here's my SSD. Let's just create a test folder. Now in here, I'm going to create my folder for this shoot, which was I won't write out the whole address, but you'd actually write out the whole address here. Hawkins drone shots. And that's where I'm going to save. So I hit choose. Now I'm going to name them. Here's the address here, 11619 West Hawkins, Nampa, and I'm going to put the word drone at the end. For the export settings, this is very important. All of the export settings will be the same because this is the maximum size that the MLS allows us to upload. So you're going to make sure you check resize to fit. And for the width, you're going to put 3,264 pixels. For the height, you're going to put 2,448 pixels. Resolution, 240. Make sure that that is checked, because if it's not checked, it's going to export the full size files and your agent will not be able to upload those to the MLS. They'll have to come back to us and say, these pictures aren't uploading, what's going on? It's a mess. So make sure that you're always exporting with these settings here. So I've got my name set, I've got my location set, I'm going to hit export. Up here you can see the progress. It should be pretty quick to export these files, and it looks like it is done. So I will go now to where, actually I'm going to open up a second window to where I saved them. In my SSD, test drone, Hawkins drone shots, I'm going to hit Command A, Control, click, and open with preview. If you're on Windows, I don't know what the process is. And we're going to check them out now. I'm going to double check that one of the drone shots from a different shoot didn't slip in there, make sure the color and everything looks good, property outline looks good, and I've got all of my angles there. So now that I have those saved, this is on my SSD. I'm going to highlight them all, hit Command C, and I'm going to go over to my Dropbox. Okay, so what you're going to see is there's going to be a folder created by the admin for every day that you're going to be shooting. So if you come here, you've already seen how you upload your raw photos to the shared folder for the Vietnam editing team. That's this one here, the photo group Vietnam. If you go in here, you can see edited and raw. This is not where we're uploading because we are not sending the files to the client from a shared Dropbox folder because we don't have control of it. They might delete something on their end. That's not what we want. We are uploading the final deliverables to our own Dropbox folder, and that's this one here. This icon here shows a folder with different silhouettes on it. That's a shared folder. This is the folder that is shared between all of the team members for A-Frame. So if we look here, we can see that we have April. It's May today, so there's going to be folders created for this month in here. But for April, I'm going to go to the 30th, and I've actually already created a test folder, but I would actually create this folder here, 11619 West Hawkins Avenue, if it's not there, but it's probably going to be there. I would navigate into it, and you can see I've already done the drone photos for this shoot. I've uploaded them. Now, all of the ground photos were not done because they get edited overnight. So when I uploaded the drone photos, they were the only photos in here. And so that looks like this. I have a test folder for 11/6/19. I open that up, Command V. I watch and make sure that the green check appears next to all of the photos. And once that's the case, now I know that all the drone photos for that day are done. I might even just double check again that I got the right ones in the right folder. And so that's an important part. If you had a drone shoot for that day, it is your responsibility to upload those drone photos to the final deliverable folder, not to the shared folder for the Vietnam team. All right. Hope that makes sense. I know that was a bit long-winded, but if you need to reference this again, that's what this video is for. Once you do this process a few times, it'll be second nature for you.